What's going on, guys? We are Southwest Active Explorers, and today we're riding navigator position for the Desert Vets Racing team in the Independence 243 Desert Race put on by Outlaw Desert Racing in Belen, New Mexico. First things first, we got to get through the tech inspection before we can head off to the race grounds.
Hey, what's going on, guys? We're just left the tech inspection at the restaurant there, got a little dinner in us, and we're headed out to where everybody's camping for the event. It's kind of slow going right now because we're dragging the pop up with the pickup truck, but this road is washboarded out, so we're trying not to shake it to pieces on the way out there because we'd still like a place to sleep because we are being chased.
Well, folks, we got lucky on that one. That rainstorm that chased us all the way to the pits missed the race grounds by an inch. The next thing on the agenda for Mike and myself was to get properly fitted and sized for our racing suits and helmets, which consisted of a fresh air system and integrated comms. Desert Vets Racing had multiple on hand to make sure that we got the right size. The next thing that we had to do is go through a thorough equipment, evacuation, and safety brief with Corey about the car.
Yeah, it's mainly you don't want it like squeezing, your head in here.
Yeah.
It should just be like tight, but it should feel tight like evenly, right? That tab, you pull up and bail. And honestly, if you bail, like if we have to get out quick, leave this. It'll pull on your head as you go by,
But it'll
get
pop
out of the
out.
car, and then just rip it off, and it'll come off. But
In the case of a rollover, just
yeah, so big thing is keep yourself a hug. You definitely don't want hands up anywhere.
While we were not actually driving the car in this race, we were sitting in the navigator position and we had to program any hazards, obstacles, and big dips or jumps into the race course into the computer and then call them out over the intercom system to the driver. We were only a few miles into our first lap whenever we already came up on our first victim of the day. These races are incredibly hard on equipment, and cars break more often than you would think. Another job of the navigator in this race car was to operate the forward-facing siren and the lights, which would alert the car in front of us that we were ready to pass. car that we were riding in for this race was a Polaris RZR 1000. And man, I gotta tell you, at full chat, this thing absolutely rips. It really was mind-blowing to be in this car going at those speeds and hit those big whoops, jumps, and dips. The suspension soaks it up like it's nothing, and it just trucks. Now, as you can probably tell by the storm clouds off in the distance and the couple of raindrops starting to appear on the camera lens, our luck ran out right about lap 3, and it wasn't long before the bottom fell out. A little bit of rain would have been a nice touch that would have kept the dust down and really tacked up the dirt and allowed for a lot better racing. However, this torrential downpour continued over the course of the next couple hours and turned most of the race course into a mud bog and some of the 2 tracks into rivers. I mean, there were spots that must have been 8 to 12 inches deep. During these long, straight 2-track sections of the track, whenever they were basically rivers, our best strategy was to try to straddle the middle and one of the sides. But honestly, it was so slick and muddy that we would just keep sliding back down into it, and every time we would do so, we would get sprayed by jets of water that were being kicked up by the tires and going up through the skid plates, which always landed in our laps, which was refreshing, as you can imagine. Now, due to the fact that our RZR was 4-wheel drive, we did have some problems sliding around, but we did still maintain forward momentum and traction. The same cannot be said about some of the other cars that were still out there trying to get after it. We passed quite a few that either got stuck, slid off the road, or just simply could not climb some of the hills. Once we'd reached the halfway mark, which for us was 5 out of 10 laps, it was time for us to pull into the pits for gas and a navigator swap. I jumped out of the car, helped Mike get into the car, we refueled, and then got out of there as quickly as we could. By now you may be asking yourselves, Steve, how did you guys keep the face shields on your full face helmets clean? Well, we kept a stash of rags in the car, and every now and then I would reach up and wipe my face shield and hand one to the driver. After all the rags got soaked, it was also my job to wring them out to give us a fresh wipe. At the halfway point, whenever we made our pit stop, we also threw a bag of fresh rags into the car for the second half, and they really needed them then. If you didn't quite catch that, that was the race officials asking us what our number was because there was so much mud on the side of the car that you literally could not see the number plate. And unfortunately, that's about all the racing footage that we can give you guys for this one. After the sun went down, the track stayed muddy and all the cameras got covered in mud, and there was really nothing else for you to see. All in all, this was a riot and one interesting desert race.
As you can see by the car, it sure doesn't look like it went through a desert race. Things got real interesting about halfway through the race. This little RZR, she kept on going. When most of the field dropped out, cars started packing up going home. This thing just kept ticking off laps and finished the race.
Not only did we finish the race, we won our class. That's right, winning. Big shout out to Desert Vets Racing. A huge thank you to Corey and his family. You guys were amazing. We will definitely be back. If you like what you saw here, be sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and as always, stay active and keep exploring.